Oh, okay. Uh, we'll do a song and dance while we're waiting. No, just by way of introduction to this panel, and we are down one panelist. Sylvia was unable to make it, but in preparing for this panel, I was really stressed out because, as you've heard, Erick is the spectrum guy. Like, there's very few people in the world who know more about this topic than he does. Same with Lope to my right, and I was stressed out. Like, how do I come up with questions that will be equal to the stature of what they do? And then I thought, well, you know what? I really don't need to think of questions. I could just step away and let them talk, and we would all learn an incredible amount of information. But in Spanish, I do not speak Spanish. Sí, yeah. My Spanish is limited to cerveza. Por favor. There's Erick. So I think what I'll do to kick it off is just ask each of our panelists in a few sentences to introduce themselves and what makes them uniquely suited to participate on this panel. Lope, please.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, to be here, and thank you for your patience with my not enough English, my slow English. I'm Lope English, from Colombia. I've been living here in Canada for 10 years, but I've been a social entrepreneur for more than 30 years, working always bridging the digital divide among rural and remote communities, indigenous people in Colombia, South America, in the jungles. We have deep jungles in Colombia. So it's have been a huge challenge. We're still working from here, not only in Colombia, in other countries, trying to say the same, do the same, because the need is still. After 10 years, the need is still. The digital divide now is deeper. The inequality is harder. Yeah, every government is putting money on it, or everybody is talking about it, and the inequality stay the same. Is racism, is classism issue, a topic, is super hard. When you work in this field, you can realize fast, very fast, that it is the main difficulty to work in this field, in the line of work, is to find that the rural and indigenous connectivity is not a priority. I don't know here, but in Latin America, for the government, it's not a priority. It's in every development and plan is included. It's the first topic, but in the reality, it's the last one. So you have to deal with all of this, but also with all that challenge, you can achieve huge results for the good of the people.
Thank you, Lope. Well, I'm Erick Huerta. I'm very happy to be here in Canada again. It's also some of our colleagues in the organization I work with spend here. They came to study here, to do their masters, and we get very touched by the stories of indigenous peoples from Canada, and I'm very happy to have the chance to share with you here today. So I have a long story of working with the indigenous communications movement in Mexico. I was actually, I came to the communication movement by chance, no? It was, so I like a lot work with the indigenous community. So when you finish your degree, your first degree in Mexico, you have to work either one semester for the government, or you can work for an indigenous community or for an NGO. And I chose to go to work with the indigenous community. And then that changed. Well, that was a bit of a crisis, because I was mainly formed as a corporate lawyer, and I was not a human rights lawyer. It was more on that side, but then I realized that what was the fight that they were fighting against a complete structure that was made to take them from their lands, and then say, oh, we'll have to work for them, but from which side? And then I have no idea that I was going to work in the side of communications. I just kept going to the communities, but also I work for the industry of telecommunications, for the cable television industry. I was the lawyer of the Chamber of Telecommunications industry for a couple of years. Then I worked for the government. But at some point of my career, there was starting a huge movement to change the law in telecommunications, and that's where I said, well, this is my chance to go back to what I wanted in the university, and I started working with indigenous media as the lawyer in some of the areas, and I'm very happy to just do that now. And I'm working Rhizomatica. It's an organization that helps every indigenous communities mainly to run and operate their own networks, and that's what we do in Mexico, Latin America, and some other countries.
Excellent, thank you. Both of you come from countries where there have been significant and historic changes to laws around how spectrum is allocated and how the fee structure is based. And maybe Erick, I'll start with you to talk about the 2021 decision on spectrum access fees. Can you explain a bit about what that looks like now, and in particular the process to get to that point?
Yeah, well, I had a presentation, but I don't know if it's... Yeah.
Phil.
Yeah, maybe just to... Yeah, well, I can start talking and then...
Yeah, no, it'd be good.
Yeah, well, there's a long history for these changes in the law in Mexico. Well, the most important one was the rise of the Zapatista movement in 1990. Okay. In 1996, there was signed the peace agreements, and in the peace agreements, they established something that is now in the Article 16 of the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And that what it says there is indigenous peoples have the right, well, the right to run and operate and own their own media. So, and the governments have to provide the conditions so that that thing happens. That later came into the Constitution, and there sleep for for many years, although the communities were willing to operate this. And that's where actually the story starts to become interesting, because at the beginning there were a lot of, the organization of the indigenous movement was mainly organized to make the government to ask the government to accomplish this thing, but the government wouldn't do much. So at some point, well, we said, well, let's do it ourselves, because I think that the indigenous communities all around the world, but in Mexico, they have a long story of autonomy, and autonomy is not is something that no one can give you. Autonomy is something that you give to yourself, and the community have to give them to yourself. To do that one thing, and then say, well, if the government, we need to get transparent the way license for broadcasting are given. So if the government doesn't do it, we will do it, and then they'll do it. And then said, and then, yeah, well, that was, the next one. Yeah, that was what I was telling. I started, no? That's the agreement, signed agreement of the San Andres agreements, where the peace agreements, where this come from. There is some picture from La Maria Piendamó in Colombia, because in 2010 there was a big meeting for Latin America with indigenous peoples there and, on communications, and they draw a plan on things regarding to communications, and this is the National Congress in Mexico for Indigenous Communications as well. So as I was saying, so this long story, we start thinking, well, we have to do things by ourselves. So well, I'm going to explain that later, but right now, Telecomunicaciones Indígenas Comunitarias, que es the indigenous operator in Mexico, is they got 2G spectrum in the 850 band, 4G spectrum in the 900 megahertz band, point-to-point spectrum in the 10 gigahertz band, and also there from another indigenous cooperative has sub-license a mobile virtual operator, MVNO. So right now here I'm using the MVNO of an indigenous cooperative, and I can call to Mexico through my own agreement. No? So the Telecom Act in Mexico provides a minimum of 10% of broadcasting band for indigenous media. And also, that's a very important part, it established the obligation in spectrum planning to ensure spectrum for indigenous communications. Which spectrum? Any spectrum that indigenous communications need. So that's why I have 2G, 4G. If they need to have 5G, you can ask for that. And in the planning process, that should be included. That's in the law. There's a new law coming in. We are asking that in the new law, they incorporate that a percentage of the spectrum fees goes to support indigenous connectivity projects. Because now, well, we have a very good regulation, but we don't have like a lot of financial, as you have here, a universal service fund, and that's not in Mexico at all. So our learnings, as well, I was explaining, at the beginning we want to change the law to change the reality, but later on with this we realize that we need to.
Try that one instead.
Hello?
That's cracking quite a bit. Yeah.
Okay. Then we realized that we have to change the reality to change the law. And that's what we did. Yeah. And can we see the next one? Yeah. So as I said, they said you cannot have broadcasting, radio broadcasting. Well, the communities start having their own broadcasting, even if the law didn't allow them. They said, well, you can have your mobile phone, mobile telecommunications companies. Well, they start having it. And then at some point we say we need to get our own technicians trained in our own ways for their own purposes. And so they design it and do that as well. No? So next, so in this process that I was going to share with you, the process of how communities in Mexico deal with this and get to this point is the first, well, by imagining the possibility of doing it, seems that this is the hardest part sometimes, because colonization, the way colonization goes, they try to convince you that that's not possible, no? That you cannot do that. And that's the hard part. Then, well, now that when you understand that that is a possibility, the people can organize to do it, and then that's where it comes have at the same time a legal strategy to support that or to defend that right to imagine your own future and design your own future. And there's another important step, that is communicate and tell other people the success of this. And well, unfortunately, this is not something that you that finish when you change the law. You know? You have to continue fighting for a lot of stuff. I'm gonna explain it a little bit later. And I don't know if you are familiar with the movie Dolomite. Have you seen that Dolomite? Yeah. Yeah, you see this guy that is the first movie made by a black fellow in the United States, and you see that there's apparently no legal prohibition for a black person to make a movie, but when you start seeing all the system that it surrounds and there are all the barriers, the invisible barriers that don't allow them to think. There are a lot of things that you have to change, and that's what happens to indigenous communities in Mexico when they start here. So here is like one of the first demonstration of the telecommunication network, and that was really difficult at the beginning, saying, really, can we be our operators? It's not Telcel, it's not AT&T, it's really us. Yes, is that possible? No, we can't believe it. And then, well, that was the hardest part to start until some communities say, yeah, we want to be the first ones in doing it, and they do it. But I think in this part, it's very important that you frame and you understand exactly what do you want, what exactly do you want for that, what for, what are you going to do with that, and how are you going to do it. And these questions are not only important for the community to know the project that is going to do, but also because that's going to be questions that the government will ask you when you apply for a license or apply for something. And that's important that you have these things very, very clear. You know? So in our case, well, we know that we wanted autonomous 2G networks, and that was for uncovered areas that the big operators wouldn't access. We want the access to 850 megahertz band. We wanted first to apply one of the things that was mentioned before, the use it or lose it framework, but the government was scared, saying, no, we will find you something, don't get that right. And also that we have a constitutional right, and the indigenous people have a constitutional right in demanding this for. Then the other part is also very important, is to meet the technical and economical requirements, and look the legal alternatives to do it, and also identify international previous experience. We didn't have much in our case, but we tried to find some, and also document the experience and share it. No? And that's something that I want to explain later how it is important. And I think that also in the previous part, one of the things, and that was also one of the questions I did before, it's that things can be done in the way communities are organized and are used to do that. So it doesn't have to be the same way the things has been done for a long time, because economies in communities work differently from others models. No, a lot of indigenous communities around the world have managed their resources in a very good way of managing commons. No? So when someone asks who owns the spectrum is a commons. And indigenous communities know very well how to manage the commons. So the models to administrate this spectrum, to do that, that could be a system of commons based within the communities. In our case, there was this is like kind of an umbrella organization to facilitate other communities to apply, they don't need to apply for a license. The license is already given to this operator, and any community that says, I want to run my own network, just start running their own network, gets registered, and that's it. They don't have to go through all the way to the government to be assigned a license and that. So it's only a way of managing the spectrum as a commons. The next one. And well, in the case of, in our case, the legal strategy for the first one, there doesn't existed a framework for that, so we applied for an experimental license. And then, luckily for us, it was the new telecom law. And then, so as the project became famous, the new telecom law embraced it and established the conditions for the license. But we also did a lot of interpretation of the law, no? How this was connected through indigenous rights, and we start bringing a lot of theory and literature on how to understand the law, not only according to the telecommunications framework, but according telecommunications framework and indigenous rights, so that this really could be consistent with the rights of indigenous people. We got a permanent license, and as I said, it's a permanent litigation. For instance, in the case when we got the license without needing to pay any money, but then in the year they said, you have to pay $1 million pesos because you are using the spectrum. And they said, no, well, we don't have to pay any money if you are if the law is not make us paying for the spectrum. That principle should be applied. And they said, no, you have to pay. And they secured the banking accounts. That was a really hard moment. But at the end, we get to the court. They changed the law, and now we don't have to pay any spectrum fees on that. But for instance, in the other radios, that's a demonstration for some indigenous radios that they want to oblige them to put the propaganda of the political parties in the radios, and they opposed to that. And well, now it's in the Inter-American Court, the thing. And well, that's I think that's coming the last one. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So just to mention a little bit on the how the telecommunications regulation work, is that mainly you got some experience at the national level. You manage to do something at the national level, and then it goes, or you have to present it as a trend in the telecommunication sector. And that trend actually is taken through the international community as a recommendation, and then from that also push some other countries to allow this national experience. So that's why it's very important that when, for instance, in this case, indigenous peoples are accessing or establishing ways to access the spectrum, that they communicate this and present it through the ITU, so that some other countries could get benefit from that. And when they say, oh, no, that's not happening, they say, no, that happens, that's already been tried, they have presented these benefits to connectivity, and you have to accept that as a recommendation, and then this circle could be, I think that's, well, thanks. And the last one is, well, that's our websites. We work on, well, Rhizomatica has a lot of documentation, but also APC has a program for digital inclusion, and well, that's also, we have that for the regulation on telecommunications for indigenous communities that are more for Latin America, and that's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. Lope, similar question to you. I know in Colombia there's been a change in the law that recognizes, in some respects, indigenous peoples' rights to access to spectrum. And could you explain a bit about what that law looks like and how it came to be? And I think, given your background, what it's meant to the indigenous communities in Colombia.
Thank you. To have a background in Colombia, Colombia have a 1 million square kilometers of area. We have a lot of jungle. We have part of the Amazonic region. We have 115 nations, indigenous nations in the country with 63 different languages. And almost 2.5 million people living in an ancestral way in very isolated regions of the country. Only the 5% of them have internet access, so the isolation is huge. Our constitution for the indigenous issue based on the Canadian constitution. We have a new constitution from 1992, so they have a lot of reference from the Canadian constitution, talking beautiful things about the indigenous rights. But, okay, more than 30 years later, we're still having all that people in same conditions. So, 8 years ago, we start a new effort, an entrepreneurial effort, very different, like the Rhizomatica effort. This is huge, it's remarkable. Our way is different because we are entrepreneurs, we are business people. We believe that we don't have to looking for dependence from the government or for grants. We applied to grants, but it's not even 5% of our income. We established a business. With this revenue, we walk with two legs. One leg is the leg of the business with huge companies that works or have operations in the rural areas, mining, forestry, transportation, ports, all that kind of companies. And with other leg, we are working among the people, among the people that share the territory, but with these huge companies. All that companies has problems with the people because there are conflict. When indigenous people or people with culture, ancestral cultures, have a huge company, a huge player working in their territories, with permission from a government that they don't know that government. They don't receive any service from that government, but they receive a huge company working there. Normally, the people react, right? The International Development Banking from Latin America, established 3 years ago, established the social protest like the main factor in the matrix of risk for every development project in the rural zones. So now the companies have conscience that they have to invest among the people before even that the project starts. So we have an offer for them. Our offer is we can afford your technological problems, your needs of connectivity, talking not only about broadband, about internet access, but also about the Internet of Things. We deploy networks for them, for sensors, for metrics, from the field. For them, it's a very good news. Providing services, ground level services. We try to avoid the satellite services because the cost, right, is too expensive. Sometimes we had to use it, but to try to avoid them most of the times. So at the same time, our proposal includes a dialogue, social dialogue with the communities, trying to help them and working with them and for them, solving some of their necessities, their needs in terms of productivity, education, health, many kind of needs that the community have, because the state, the government is not there, right, for them. But they have to decide what is development for them because they have another worldview, right? There are values different, beliefs different for us. And like our fellow says before than me, bridging the digital divide is not only infrastructure topic, right? It's not a plug and play solution like Starlink is offering. Plug and play and start to gaming, start to see Netflix. This is an absolutely urban-centric way to afford that topic, that specific issue. So we address the whole problem. We develop infrastructure, but we also develop the contents that have to be useful for the people, with the people, talking with the people. What do you need in terms of agricultural? We need a sensor to detect some plague in our agricultural fields. We need to realize when the river is going to a float. We need to discover, detect the early detection of that. Or we need one of our communities, friend communities, asked for a solution for snakes because at the evening the snakes going on the roads and was very dangerous for children. So with a simple solution based on sound, the snakes is far away of the road. So we have to understand what they need, what development means for them, and provide a solution based on ICT, but with respect, in a respectful way with their culture and values. So after that, we work with them, creating a branch of our company among them, with people from the region. We train them, we equip them, and we include them in our payroll. That young people need works in their territory, because the only option that they have is going to the big cities to have a job. So the most brilliant young people are going outside of that territory because this is the dilemma that we create for them. It's an unfair dilemma. If you want to grow, you have to leave our territory. But the territory is part of their identity. It's unfair, that dilemma. So we create opportunities, an horizon of opportunities for them in the territory. We include them in our payroll, and we start working with them, and for the companies. 2 years ago, we established and we developed the biggest Wi-Fi network in Latin America, more than 2 million square meters in the port of Buenaventura. And who was in charge of this super challenge? Our people, our young people from the community. They were on charge of that challenge, working in the facilities of the port. The project was perfect, realized, accomplished with them. So we have been working in this way for 8 years, trying to change the law in Colombia, to have an open TV space spectrum for our customers, for the people. The government was trying to avoid the change of the law because it's too much for them. Do something is too much for us. We have to deal with 3 governments, 3 presidents, 5 ministers, 8 directors of the national regulator of spectrum. Even we had to sue them to create I don't know how to say, against them, an action legal against them. So at the end, the last year, we have a super modern regulation. I think that this is the best regulation in terms of TV space in the whole world. We have this regulation in Colombia. And now, after 8 years, we are in our year one. We are starting our project. Like Erick says, change the law is only the beginning. But we are working there, and we now we have invitations from Burundi, for Paraguay, for Chile, for Peru, and and for Estonia to do the same there with allies, always looking for allies in the place, locals, communities that live in the place. It's impossible to solve the problem in the rural with people from the city. You have to work with them, for them. This is our belief, this is our goal, this is our purpose of life. Okay.
Excellent, thank you. That's a really interesting story. Makes me laugh a bit. Something that came to me while both of you were speaking is, spectrum rights in Latin America seem to be really grouped with indigenous rights writ large, right? Spectrum rights are really wrapped up in indigenous rights and rights to territory and rights to right to self-determination, all of that. Knowing this audience here is predominantly living in Canada and the U.S., what lessons that you learned in both of your processes do you think could be applied in Canada and the U.S., where we have things like the Indigenous priority window, the travel priority window in the U.S., which are less rights-based, but in your opinion, is there a way we could learn from what happened in Mexico and Colombia and advance spectrum rights in Canada and the U.S. even further?
Well, I think that's a question mainly for for the audience to say what they found interesting from our experience. I think it's there are different contexts as well. There's in Mexico there, and also I think in Colombia, it's a lot of land that it's in hands of the indigenous communities. And in those lands, in most of them, there is an autonomous government in there. So whenever the assembly says this is going to be done, they don't care about the government and they don't care about what happens, and they just do it. No? They just do it. Sometimes that get them in troubles with the government, and they go and close the radios, and they put the radios again, and then they call. But this sense of autonomy, it's very important. So what I think is whatever it's going to be done, no, when you're claiming for a right, and especially because most of the rights of indigenous peoples are based in autonomy, you have to wonder how you're going to be organized to assume that right. No, that's very important. There could be any structure, or that could be any, but it's important that the people are organized to use that. Otherwise, some other people might come and try to jump in and use it. No? Sometimes they invent themselves companies. They say, they catch a person, a guy that was indigenous people. They say, we claim they're indigenous, and they go and try to take advantage from that. And that thing is something that it's dangerous. And also, I think it's now that I was hearing about the passive infrastructure, not just mentioned that. And I think that's a very important thing as well, to think about how to get it into the territory and autonomy of that. Because most of these poles, roads, tubes within the roads that are where for instance, now that you mentioned fiber is cheap. What is expensive is to go into the road, to carve in the roads. But most of that is within indigenous lands, and so those roads are in indigenous lands. I think the Broadband for the Rural North project is based mainly on fiber, but it's fiber that it's run by the communities there. So I think at the same time you're looking for about the spectrum, could be also a strategy for
for passive infrastructure that it's already in their territories, and they have access to that too.
It's a difficult question because at the beginning, we with my wife and I, that we have been partners for more than almost 4 years, we came here at Canada and to learn from Canada how you are doing, how you are achieving that 98% of internet penetration in rural remote zones. So we have a serious government, very serious politicians. For us, that looks like the heaven. Canada looks like heaven. When we start to come to the Indigenous Connectivity Summit, we start to realize that maybe it's not that heaven, right? That you saw, but Canada had a very good brand internationally, right? And it's a beautiful achievement, of course. But maybe one of the things that we have been learning in our case in Colombia, that maybe all will be useful even for Canada, is that everybody has to win something in every effort. Sometimes you can feel so lonely in your effort that you have to leave behind other people. Even the politician is doing nothing for us, okay? Left behind, far away. That institution, that university, they are not doing nothing for us. So, and you start to walk lonely, in a lonely way, but it's useful. Have something to share with all of them. In Colombia, for example, the last ministry of telecommunications, the ministry had approved the law, our change of the law. He won something from us. You know what? He received an invitation from us, and he did a television show presenting our program like his program. and he, of course, he won a popularity. Yeah, that was convenient for him. He's running for president, for be the next president. This is the interest for the politician, right? So after that, he understood that maybe we are not a threat for him. We are not a problem for him. We are not going to get in trouble. We are inoffensive. I don't know if the word is right, but it's people. Yeah. No, we are not a threat for these politicians. So for people in the field, companies, when you start to work with communities, the companies get tension, get stress, because in our countries, working with social is a dangerous place to work. You can pass away for that. Yeah. Our country is the country with the most social leaders are killed in the whole world. So we have to express, to communicate with the companies. Look, we are working with the people for your convenience. Also, yeah, it's good for you that we are looking to achieve with this community. We are not against you. We are not against your operation. And we have to talk with the whole stakeholders around you. Everybody has to win something from your project, or believe that he can or he will win something from your project. After all that decades working among the war, because we have been in war, we never. Okay, I have been kidnapped twice, but not because my projects. It's because accidentally in the road, one time by the government, by our army force. Yeah, this is a false positive crime that we have in Colombia, and other time of the guerrilla army. But never was attacked our projects, our infrastructure, our schools, our computers. Not even once. We have a stealing of a computer from a school, because even the guerrillas armies, even the criminal groups understand that it's good for them in some point, having internet in the field will be good for them. This is like the way that we have been working in this among this dangerous extreme situation. But I think it's a good way to navigate this ocean, the blue ocean, that they bring in the digital divide in every country. Because if somebody, there are no enemy small, right? If somebody believes that you are a threat for that person, maybe there is where the next problem is for you, will be for you. So we have to communicate, to trying to think, to imagine, put your creativity. What when I can offer, what can I offer to this group, of this kind of a group of companies, of this player. So at the end, you can achieve your goal. Yes, they can achieve in an unfair way, maybe popularity or something, but it doesn't matter. Right? Your goal is to help people, change lives, help them to achieve new goals for children, for communities. We have been changed the life for more than maybe 200,000 people in Colombia, children that now they are not children, now they are adults, have been learning Linux and software and technology from years ago. So it's beautiful. This is we are working for. This is we are looking for. This is our life. And also it's a business. We have been creating 3 companies and we sell it to the huge guys. When you bridge the digital divide and you develop a region, the second step is to sell your company. Because the big guys want to go there to sell their services. It's not necessary to still there, work, fighting for the market. No, just sell it and go farther where the networks are not working.
Excellent, thank you. The kidnapping comments are very interesting. That hasn't happened in Canadian internet policy yet, but I'll leave it at yet. But we do have time for questions. There's one right over here.
And it's on, yes. Where am I going? There we go.
Eric, Keith Matthew again. I'm just wondering, I saw a recent news clip about Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim cuts ties with Elon Musk's Starlink, costing Musk $7 billion after a controversial tweet. Where is the opportunity for us as Indigenous people to work with the Mexican people and indeed the people of South America that we say we're related to? I know that's a big question, but what are the things that we can do? And I take the comment from our brother from Colombia about working closely with local people, local knowledge, understanding who to work with and how to do the business locally. I think that's true for us as well, as Indigenous people here in Canada and even hopefully down the States. Instead of us working just on our reservations, these little small plots of land, collectively working together to advance the issues, but doing it in such a way that we can make some money so we can reinvest it back into our communities as well. I hear you about the grants and whatnot, Cooksham. Thank you.
Bring you the mic back.
Well, I think it's, it depends on different projects. Right now, what is going on in Mexico, for instance, for our networks, most was a Canadian technology that we were using, or small cells. There is, right now it's I think we see a danger in the growing of these Starlink satellites around the country, because most of the connectivity has been moved to those satellites. So right now there's a very good fiber backbone of the government that it's around. And we want that access to that fiber backbone, and that to change the things, because
Something we learned from Spain, from other networks from Spain, and also from the ones that I was telling you about, broadband for the rural north, is that you can grow fiber from the communities to the outside. We just think from the outside to the communities, but we can grow the fiber from the inside the communities to the outside, and we are working towards that. I think if we get to start these fiber links among the community, one community go to the other that, and at some point they want to reach some fiber backbone or something, and then from there they can start managing a big network. Also, that brings us also now a very important thing, that is the data centers. There's not many data centers, whereas in Canada, in the United States, there are data centers that are in hands of indigenous communities. And that's getting very important, because also right now with artificial intelligence, so most of the indigenous content now is in Facebook, is in YouTube, is in that. And in order to use that content to generate whatever you want to generate, you have to have it in your hands. So it's a very important need of local archives on the video knowledge of indigenous community, managed by indigenous communities, so that they can develop technologies on the base of that. And if there's in the hands of these big companies, but you cannot use it, you cannot administer, they get lost sometimes. And so that's something, other thing that I think that could be complementary, because not many indigenous communities in Mexico has their own data centers and so on, and neither the capacity sometimes to manage them. So that's some chances that I think just as in a random way I'm looking at.
Lope, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I was remembering that for us, change the law or obtain our approval, not only for us, for everybody that wants to use the device space in the same way. It takes 8 years, right? 8 years, and a lot of effort. Starlink get the approval in 24 hours. The last day of the last government, the last day, they get the approval, 24 hours. In the review of the proposal, in the analysis of the proposal, and the approval. And they get a licensing for 30 years of using of our spectrum.
30?
So 30 years.
30.
30, yeah. Not 13, 30 years. Yeah. So yeah, that was the last gift from the last president. So, but everybody is thinking, for us, I've been telling us, oh, now we have Starlink, you're done. All that your effort is on the garbage. Yeah, waste of money, waste of time, because Starlink is here. The problem is done, it's gone, right? The problem is the connectivity for the rural is gone. Starlink is the solution. So the problem that the fellow is talking about is have a good thing. That is our government, our politicians that used to be like hypnotized by Elon, by the solution comes from this billionaire. But now they are thinking different way. Our government in Colombia is not the best friend of state government, even the Elon government. So now the government is actively looking for other options. It's good. It's good. I don't say anything bad about that technology. It's a beautiful technology, like a Model Y, like a Model 3. It's a beautiful piece of technology. But they are not a Tesla for poor people, right? They are not a solution from Tesla for public transportation. This is not the interest of them. their interest is to have a beautiful product for rich people, or for rich people that used to live in the rural, or that used to go in RV or in a yacht, to having internet in the plane or in the sea. So, but it's not for change lives in the communities that they don't have credit card, they don't have knowledge to how they can buy that service. So this is not the same target. We are not working with the same target. So that we have been working with our business model in the rural is working with the people in the base of the pyramid. We believe that Hernando de Soto, the Peruvian economist, remarkable economist, says that the people, to change the life of the poor people, is among the poor people. It's coming from the poor people. The people have the money, have the energy to change their lives. So we have been working in the base of the pyramid for a long time, the middle 90s. So we strongly believe that this is possible, and we have been doing for a long time. And also with the government, when it is possible to get a government agreement, when it is safe, we get it. And because we have a long-range network, we can look for customers in a bigger area. So we can look for customers from the companies, B2B in a B2B model. So we have in this way we have a balanced source of resources for our company. So this is the way that we have been working. I had been the same way at the end of the 90s and in this century, that century has been the same model and works. Yeah.
Excellent. We have time for one more quick question, if anyone has one. Right here.
I don't know if I need a microphone. Well,
Yeah.
here you go. I'm already here. I talk loud anyways. I just was curious about what you were saying about how your organization is set up. Like you're talking about working with the people and employing the people in your or in the communities. So what does the whole organization look like? Can you break that down? Like your organizational structure?
Yes, it's an ISP. It's a company. It's a small ISP, small size ISP in Colombia. Its name is Nodo Pacifico. Nodo Pacifico because we start our work in the Pacific region, in the west coast of Colombia. So this is we have the rights to provide services and telephony and access service. And we have another company here in Canada. The name is Loma Projects Canada Corporations. And we have another company in the States. The name is Not Too Far Technologies. That we have been working the same, as a small ISP, internet service providers, but we are not trying to have the whole cake in our table. We only have the knowledge, the people, our crew, to train them, to help them to install and support them after the installation. But we work with people in the field.
Excellent. Erick, Lope. Oh, do we want to do one more, Jewel?
So, we do have one more panel, and then we have plenty of time for discussion. So I do think I'm just gonna call it, and I thank you guys very much, because we do have to move forward. But there's plenty of time to speak with each other after, and that's the most important thing about these events, is that we get to sit at a table together or at the whiskey bar, whatever's more convenient. So thank you, gracias, Lope and Erick. Yeah.